Bunny Street School, big two-story building. Used to be right there where the funeral home is. But it had a big front porch and a big back porch.
It was a big building, barn like. Going into the building, they had classrooms on both sides. And across the street was a white building, white. It had been a house, I guess, but they converted it into the home ec department. For a while, there was a government program that sponsored lunches. So for lunch, they would cook lunch, and then we would go over there and get lunch when they were giving free lunches. But then after sometime later, that ended, and we had to bring our own lunch.
We really didn't have a playground. We had dirt and stuff out there, but we played on. We shot marbles and stuff like that there and followed the leader and stuff.
Most time we played hopscotch and uh, duck, goose, and some of that.
We had an outside spigot on the outside to drink water from. And they had a fire escape on the east side of the school.
They had a door up there that you could just walk out in that door, and then once you get in that door, you just walk in and then you sit down and it's come right around and slide right on down out of there. But we used to have a lot of fun playing in it. It was like a big pipe in sections. And then I guess where it would join, after years, you could tear your pants and stuff because it had that metal, had little edges. You had to be real careful when it coming down.
Every room had a stove in it, a heater. They call them heaters, right? They big old pot belly.
The teacher would assign different students to bring in coal. Sometime, you would go out in the evening before school closed, bring the coal in. They stoke the fire, so when you started the next morning, you put in coal and start your new fire.
And if you put coal in it and wood, it would break apart. It would come apart and fall on the floor. So we learned how to take sticks and put it back together and keep going. And then they would come in there and you motor oil and put it all over the floor to keep the dust down. And that stuff was terrible, but we got over it.
The coal came from the oil mill. That was one of the things they sold was coal. They had a general named Mr. Freeman Allen. He used to deliver coal to the school.
We had a coal house outside. Next to the bathrooms, we had outhouses. And I think the coal was in the middle, The boys was on one side and the girls was on the other side.
And you couldn't use them because they were usually filthy. Unless you was in a real jam, you would not use them.
But the teachers, they had a paddle. It was wood paddle, but it wasn't too thick. And if you were disobedient or something, they paddle your hand. I'm talking about your hand be red when they get through with you.
And that paddle was made like a drumstick, and it was about as thick as this.
Brushing the hand with it. You had spelling class and you didn't study, and if you missed 5 words, you got 5 licks. I went by the paddle a couple of times.
Ooh-wee. And then if you had to do that, they'll send a note to your parent. Then the same thing when you get home.
A lot of time if we did something wrong or something right, the parents knew it before we got home from school. It was just that way. It was like a line. They had some kind of line of communication. I don't know.
I remember 3 or 4 of my friends, we were sitting in the back of the room and we was just the class clown, just disturbing the class. And the teacher looked at us, just, okay, let's go to the office. Miss Marie Martin was the principal then, and she knew my mom. And she said, I'm not gonna have this. I'm gonna make contact with your mom. But the principal got on to you, and when you went home, your mom got on to you. And when she said, when you go back to that school, you're gonna behave in that classroom. And you did.
It was more of a working relationship between the parents and the teachers
and making sure your child stayed on track.
Everybody was family there. You know, we knew everybody. We all were one neighborhood over from the other, a house across the street. And it was almost like family, but they were strict family. And they were caring at the same time, though.
The teachers really cared because they knew the struggle for young black people coming out of the 1960s, going into the 1970s. So they tried to make sure that we got it so that we can do well, you know, once we got out of school and went forth in life. They was not just our teachers; they were our counselors.
They wanted to see you improve, do better. Don't settle. Don't settle. Rise above.
Mr. W.H. Ingram, he was kind of fat. He looked white, had pretty hair. He would talk to you worse than some white people would. Call you the N word, and you go in there and try to talk to him, and he'd tell you, go on, get on out of here. Go on now, go on.
He was just a funny little man. He would like sneak up on us. You know, he carried this piece of pasteboard and he catch you, he pops you with that pasteboard. Like you have a long roll Christmas paper, something like that. Paper wrapped around, just a little pasteboard box like that. He wasn't trying to hurt anybody, anything. He had a nickname, Bull Skate.
Bull skate, bull skate.
Bull skate. He would come down the hall with a stick, making sure you be in class. He'd come around and peep in the room, and make sure the teacher and her students were quiet. And
He killed a thing like this right here, like wooden power. Now you didn't remember that, man.
Boy, you come down through there, he had a cane. You better not be in the hall when you come down through there. He will tell you up.
If you did right, he didn't mess with you. You did anything wrong, that was it.
He used to tell me that what you can do, yeah, you're gonna make it. He'd ask questions about what was on the news last night. And I would go and sit in the car and try to hear the news. And so I would tell him, oh, you're gonna make it, you're gonna make it. You're always saying you're gonna make it. And I thought I could make it. In the way he was tough and kind of make you hate him. But I tell you, if you listen to him, he put you on the right road.
Mr. Ingram, who was the principal, was very dedicated to trying to get good teaching experience. That's one thing I always admired about him.
She's a very nice lady, but she was stern in what she did, and she wanted to make sure that you got the best education that you did. She was a phenomenal principal. Awesome principal.
She was just a lady that you just look up to. I mean, I loved her voice. She had a certain voice. She had a certain walk. She had a certain look. And she was always just immaculately dressed. She just had a certain air about herself. And I was just like so professional.
She was a very special person. She disciplined because she cared about the children. She cared a whole lot.
And she just didn't love one child. She loved them all. Then I remember one day, Mr. McCarter, I was acting up and he took me to her office. He said, I know where you came from, Springfield community. And they don't act up from Springfield community. And she gave me a good talking to. And I promised after that, I was a much better student.
Ms. Martin's first day of school as the principal. Okay. I was in 7th grade, per high, 7th grade wing. Okay. So Ms. Martin walked into the building. Okay. Black female principal. Up to that point in time, all our principals were males, black males, okay? So Ms. Martin stepped into the hall, James Sanders with his wisdom goes, da, 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 da. Okay, so Ms. Martin said, who is that tingling when I walk on this hall? And my classmates sold me out like a dime. They parted like the Red Sea. James Sanders, Ms. Martin said, come here. So I can tell you, I can claim to have been the first person that Ms. Martin reprimanded at Pearl Street Elementary High School. I can claim that. Nobody can claim that. to us, she was just beautiful. Okay, she was a beautiful woman. But she was very firm.
Everybody was scared of her because she didn't play. You could hear her coming down the hallway clacking her heels. Everybody used to get quiet and behave, including the teacher.
And when we exchanged classes, we had only just a couple of minutes to go in that restroom and out. And if you was in there more than you should have been, I don't care what you were doing. She opened that door. She came into that restroom and she had a strap. She just started hitting like this right here. So
It's like a leather strap, but it was yellow. I remember it was yellow. It was probably about like maybe 2 inches or 3 inches wide. It was about like this.
She had this long leather strap, and she did not mind using it.
She always kept like a fan belt. She told her that all the time.
She was a nice lady, but I thought she was the meanest lady I had ever met. But she was very strict. As I think back now, she probably had to be. She had to start out that way and keep it up in order to maintain control over the school that she was in charge of.
When she came to the school didn't have a choir, the school didn't have a band. Within a couple of years, she had brought Mr. J.G. McCarter to the school system, started a choir. Next year, she brought Mr. Murphy to the school system, started a band. And so that right there, a lot tied the community because prior to that, there was no real reason to come together as a school except for a sports event. So Ms. Martin was, man, tremendous effect to this community. She made us feel proud of who we were.
I think there were separate, sometimes equal. I'm not sure we're always equal because they may have had new equipment, then we would have to use old equipment, that kind of thing. Separate, but not necessarily equal.
We didn't have the information that we needed. Like I had never seen a periodic table until I got to college.
If you're getting books from a year or two older than what everybody else was getting, there's a question as to, why are we getting older material? Why couldn't we get the updated material like everybody else? Because it feels like you're just a little behind or maybe a lot behind because a lot can happen in a 2-year period that needed to go into books.
I cannot recall ever having a new book. But being a child and being young, we didn't actually question it, but we did have feelings about like, well, you look in the book and like, I don't recall any of these people. I don't know any of these people because we all kind of knew each other if they looked like us. But as you got older and you began to reflect, to me, it had more of an impact and even some resentment because my dad and all the other people who own land or a house, they pay taxes. And then we had to have secondhand books. Our education could be considered not up to par because by the time we got those books, the information was old. Our education was definitely not equal, but we were expected to take the same SAT test and pass. So we had to work extremely hard because the same rules applied.
We had a librarian named E.P. Neal. That's the first time I really heard like somebody protesting in Madison, and it was her. And she got the NACP to get behind her with the fact that they had gotten like several sets of encyclopedias, and they didn't even give Pearl High any of the new encyclopedia. What they did was they gave us the newest set of encyclopedias that was at the Morgan County. Miss Neal wouldn't accept them. I don't know how many sets of encyclopedias came in, but she told them that Pearl High was going to get at least one set of those new encyclopedias. We didn't want the newest version of what they had.
Most of the time in the summer, we had what they call split session. The black kids would go to school and they would get out early and they would have a few weeks off, then they'd go back to school. Then around late August or September, they'd let us out of school again so we could pick cotton. They would let you out of school. The kids would go pick cotton during September. Yeah.
Several of my friends did have to be absent during harvest time, cotton picking time, peaches picking time. So basically, it was the people who lived on the white man's land, I might as well say, they had to be out doing farm gathering time.
We were sharecroppers. So, we had to live. Now, I would ask my parents sometimes if I had to go take an exam or try to take an exam. I'd try to make it to the exam, but sometimes he said no. We got all this, we got to get this cotton, so we'd have to get the cotton.
Our parents, they were picking cotton back then. And then someday, we had to stay out of school and help them pick cotton. We might stay out of school one day out of the week. I remember a lot of kids didn't come to school about once a week, twice a week. Then a lot of them just dropped out.
I knew it wasn't right because I couldn't understand why they couldn't pick their own cotton. How come I got to go out there and help you pick your cotton? So, but we got paid to do it. But I knew it was racist. I knew that because if it had been good, then the white kids would have been doing it too. And I can remember going to a baccalaureate. I remember the school superintendent telling the graduating class, say, if you want a job, Mr. Mason will hire you. And I was sitting there thinking, now who want to go to the cotton field with a high school diploma? You could have stayed at home and went to the cotton field. You're doing that every day.
We had a dynamite band director. He loved his band students, but now you did what he wanted you to do. If you didn't, he got on to you. He taught us well. A lot of it was classical music. He would tie in maybe some blues. We performed in parades, lots of marching band parades. We were very proud to be out there marching in the band. Just seeing the people standing on the sidelines, watching you, waving at you. We had blue and gold uniforms. We were proud to be wearing those uniforms. But we had a dynamite basketball team. Those were joyous times. Ooh, we had good times at those ball games. They were good players. Bip Russell, who else I can remember? Ralph Binion, um, Mick Wade, Melvin Wade. He was tall.
I was 6'9" with the big afro. So we were packing the gym everywhere we went. We ain't played a prison, but it was alto. And we went to state and we lost out in the final. It was a big thing. They took it from us, really. But we're coming back the next year. That's for my senior year. Everybody that knew us and knew we were going to win the championship that year. We got ready to get on the bus up there by the high school on the ramp. We got on the bus, and Martin came up and say, y'all won't be playing. They'd come up with something like the two brothers, my cousin now, they had different last names. We never could understand that. So they just shut us out. We didn't play. We were the last class. There was a lot of stuff happening in the last class. We didn't get a yearbook. We didn't get no jacket, and we didn't get no letter. So that kind of did something to me. I think I had my best game in Wilder. I think I scored 40-something points, almost 50 points. But I always scored 30-something points because when I scored 25 points or something like that, Miss Barnes said, you ain't did that. And so that's just made me play harder, I think. My jump shot. I couldn't miss my jump shot, I had to move, when I come in and they get on me, I'm bam, 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 boom. Then either they get on me and I'm spinning and throw the ball to me, I spin, go around, bam, then I stop, shoot, bam. And then I'm battling under the hoop and getting rebound, putting them back up, blocking shot. That's the best night I had. Gym was packed, crowd crazy and loud. I was the first male cheerleader at Pearl High. And I have no idea how I got there, other than the fact that I had a big mouth, a loud voice. Put me with girls, I'm a happy man. so I was there. Give me a P, give me an E, give me an A, give me an R, give me an L. With this thing, put it all together.